Hey, good morning, tubes. Little Fukushima update. Quick review of news articles, what the news is telling us about. And American news has nothing. You notice that? I suppose you didn't, because there's nothing in American media about it. Actually, there's nothing in general media about Fukushima very well. Nothing ties the bigger stories together. It's little pieces here and there about something going on. But bottom line is, back in December, they had a setback and had to go back and retime pulling those fuel rods for reasons which you can go investigate, and you might not be satisfied with what you find in normal media. If you go research the science and the issues they're facing, these are challenges and hurdles of engineering and how not to harm people, how not to put a crane operator in harm's way. So you invent remote cranes that you should have had in the standby, because we knew you need remote resources to deal with these emergencies, but we ignore these lessons, right? What else is going on? The ice wall. Now, that ice wall is a huge endeavor. It's keeping what is probably the half, if any, I don't know how much of those 3 melted cores are left in the reactor chambers, because the release inventories have never been updated. They have never sat back and said, uh-oh, here's what's really came out of those reactors. You can find release estimates and noise like that, but in the sciences, those evaluations are continually done, because the model used has to be good for the next time. So people sit around and they think about this for days and weeks and months, and then they come up with an epiphany that's one more link in an equation that ends up being one more risk to human life, because people do think about this. They do consider it. It is part of their conversations. They don't want public, because the public brings noise. That's a problem, you know. Signal to noise ratio, what are we talking about versus what is the issue? And the issue is the management of a nuclear disaster. Pretty big deal, I would say, in my books, in our books. They're on the shelves. They're on the internet shelves now. A little bit easier to get to, a little harder to understand, because without some of this being presented properly, it just doesn't make sense. It almost insults your intelligence if you have some. So, that ice wall, a link between the radiators that cool the individual cores, right? There's 3 cores, but they have 4 cores circled because they've made a swimming pool, and the liner of the swimming pool is failing. This case was one of the pipes that feeds the cooling water from one reactor area into the next leaked coolant. Now, the coolant's only a salt. It's going to rinse back into the ocean, so that in itself isn't a big deal. Maybe. But the last I heard of that ice wall, it was still around 80% efficient. So 20% of something is leaking out. Now, since we've excluded magic from any of the equations, that something is multiple isotopes, not one. Something got lost in this conversation, right? We hear presentations about cesium-137, one of the simplest decay isotopes out there, one of the easiest to have conversations around. It's like CO2. There's more going on, but CO2. So the ice wall's leaking. The timing has been set back for fuel rod removal. The containment required, necessary for those 3 melted reactors and the nasty swimming pool is breached. Third item, releasing the TEPCO water. I don't know enough about that water. All they're talking about is one isotope. Again, the isotope is a decay product of other isotopes. What else is in that water? What is the harm? What are the risks? They should be presented. And it's that signal to noise ratio. If they put it out there, the nuts are going to come. The squirrels and the wildlife. So that's a crappy update on Fukushima status. Three major elements: retiming, again and again; leaking ice wall, again and again; tons of tritiated water with something else in it, again and again. But hey, on the good side, we don't have to worry about North Korea. We haven't had to worry about them since the nuclear industry was handed billions of dollars in cash. Yeah, we're playing with Iran. Yeah, that's a real worldly concern. All Iran wants to do is make commercial nuclear fuel for commercial reactors, or a different type of fuel for commercial shipping. Consider that. Nuclear reactors. More nuclear reactors. We already have them in submarines. Russia is commissioning a few of them to run a power generator for deep ocean mining, or actually it's shallow ocean mining, up in the Arctic. So while on our side of the Arctic, we don't know what we're talking about, on Russia's side of the Arctic, it's drill, baby, drill. And Sarah Palin's, well, who gives a shit, sorry. There you go. There you go. Here's a quick, I'm flattered. I was asked if I was OSI, right? That's Israeli secret something. I was asked if I was a Freemason. This being human shit, this is tough stuff, folks. Keep your head down.